All right, guys, I am back with my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. So, a lot of people want to know, should you go see this film? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. So, here's the short answer. I will tell you that my wife wanted to see this more than I did, and she walked out of the theater absolutely loving this movie. It was her favorite of the three films. So I'll tell you where it comes out for me at the end, but I'm going to talk about the basic plot of the film, and I'm going to give you my feelings here, and I'm also going to tie it into how I think this is going to pertain to the DCU moving forward. So you're going to want to watch the whole review. All right, so this movie starts out kind of like right after where the Christmas special ends on the Disney Plus, the special that they had on Disney Plus. And what was funny is everybody was all happy during the Disney Plus special, but they're not so happy at the beginning of this film. You got Quill, who's a drunk, and nobody seems to be too happy because of the events of what happened at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, what ends up happening at the beginning of this movie is there's quite a bit of chaos that happens at the beginning. There's an event that happens that causes Rocket to be injured critically. And the film is them trying to save his life. And that gives us some flash backwards, we get to see his past. And it's woven throughout the whole film. We get to see how he came to be, what happened, and to, get him to where he is today. So this is really all about Rocket's journey. But they do interweave the stories of the other characters as well. Now, this is the last Guardians of the Galaxy film. Whether it's the last we see of these characters remains to be seen, although if you stay till the end, they give you a definitive answer for one of those characters. So you're going to want to stay all the way till the end. There are 2 post-credit scenes that I heard were pointless. I don't think they were pointless. I think one of them shows, what's becoming of the Guardians of the Galaxy after the movie ends, and then the other one is showing a little bit about, it's going to pertain to what they say at the end of the credits. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Here's what was interesting about this film. First of all, James Gunn uses a lot of music throughout this movie like he did the previous films. I don't think it hits as well in this one as it did the previous chapters, volumes. But it was still serviceable. I hope he does not do this with the Superman film. Superman, I think the DC characters, they need to have strong musical scores. You can't do it without John Williams' score, and you can't do it without Hans Zimmer's music. You've got to have something powerful. If you start throwing songs on there, you're going to lose the audience. I will tell you that right now. You can't do that with Superman. All right, so moving the plot forward, we get to see some familiar characters from some of the other films. And this movie is nowhere near as funny as the other ones. In fact, this is the weird thing. Most Marvel films got goofier as time went on. In this one, it's just the opposite. Each of the movies got more serious, and this one was dead serious. In fact, this is one of the most serious films that Marvel has put out to date. The only other one that was more serious than this, I think, was Winter Soldier, which is still my favorite film of the whole MCU. But each of the characters gets their due in this film, and there's one really good scene at the end where they all get to do something together, and I thought it was pretty well thought out. Now, here's where this movie gets interesting and where I think it lacks a little bit. And then I'm going to give you my final score and talk about what I think this means for the DC universe. And there were some moments where you get emotional in several different scenes. There's probably about a half a dozen scenes in this movie where things start to get emotional. But James Gunn has this habit of ending it too quickly, meaning either a joke happens, the very first time things get emotional, a joke happens right afterwards to pull you out of the moment. The other emotional scenes, they're too short, and then action ensues. And so it pulls you out of the moment. Let the audience savor the moments. If you want to have an emotional impact with the audience, you've got to balance it so that they can really hook on to it. Because there are some things in this movie that could have been super powerful, but he either did a joke too quickly or cut away from the scene too quickly to go to action or something else. And This is my fear going into the DCU. Now, I'm going to give you my score on this, and then I'm going to talk about what I think this is going to mean for the DCU. So at the end of the day, I didn't like this as much as I liked the first one. The first one is still my favorite film, by far, okay? This one, I'd give 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't like it. I liked it more than the second one, but not as much as the first one. I think the introduction of Quill in the first film was really well done. That's when I first said, oh, he could totally be Indiana Jones. And this was before anybody was talking about it. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. And, you know, they talked about having the guy who does the voice of Rocket at one point play Indiana Jones. And I was like, no. And the only person I've ever said who could fill his shoes would have been Chris Pratt. But I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I'm going to be talking about Indiana Jones coming up, but I have a feeling after the new Indiana Jones movie that Disney is going to shelve Indiana Jones. I have this creepy feeling that they're going to shelve that series entirely, that they're going to shut it down. And I'll be talking about that in a future video, which I think will be a shame. I don't think we're going to get comics, books, movies, or anything else from the Indiana Jones universe after this next film gets released, and I'll talk about that in an upcoming video. But I give this 4 out of 5 stars. My wife loved it, though. I will tell you that. Should you go see it? If you're a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, yes, go see it. It's the end of the franchise. The last time you're going to see these characters together, yes, go see the film, okay? It's worth going to see. Just know that it is way more serious than the other two, and most of the jokes that they showed were in the trailers, and those were the dumb jokes. There are other jokes in the movie that land a little bit better, and some that don't, but this movie is way more serious than the other movies, way more serious. And so it's a little weird that they went in that direction with it, but I prefer that. I think I wish all the films had been kind of this tone from the beginning, and I think it would have been a much better franchise. But like I said, they went from goofy to more serious, where the other Marvel films are going in the other direction. It's almost a shame that this is the end of the franchise, you know, the way it is. But like I said, stay for the credits, especially for when it ends. There is definitely a message at the end that gives you an indication as to the fate of one of the characters in the film. The bad guy in the film was also really well done. I don't know how to say the guy's name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but he was an amazing actor. He was the one who did all the experiments on Rocket, and he's a big part of the movie. All right, so let's talk about what I think this means for the DCU. I'm afraid that James Gunn is going to butcher Superman. Here's the thing with James Gunn. His movies are all over the board. He's done horror. He's done comedy. He's done tons of just crass, ridiculous toilet humor stuff like Suicide Squad, part of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and Peacemaker especially was just disgusting. And that's not what I personally want out of the DCU. I want the DC characters to be taken more seriously. And if he does take them seriously, I have a feeling he's going to try to bring in that emotion and then drag you away too quickly. And I will have a DC update tomorrow. It looks like they're already looking at who Lois Lane might be. There's the first bit of casting has pretty much been revealed as to who they're looking at. They haven't talked about who's going to play Superman yet, but I'll be discussing that in a video tomorrow. But I'm just afraid that he's not going to bring that emotional impact that you need to really make this work. And if the movie is stellar, I will tell you, this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was not stellar. It's borderline. He could do it. He just chooses not to, or he's not capable of doing it. I don't know which. But this is probably one of the best films that James Gunn has produced. It is definitely the most serious one I think he has produced. But I still don't have a whole lot of hope for the future of the DC Universe under his hands. And he's got to keep that stupid humor out there. I don't want to see some of the humor like what we saw in the trailers for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But we'll see what happens going forward. All right, I do appreciate it. If you haven't already, like the video. YouTube will share my videos and put them out to more people if you guys like it. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up.